All right, hello. I am just going to talk briefly about my current training. I guess it's what many people are now calling hybrid training. I don't even know if that's like a newer term or if it's just going around right now, heavy on Instagram. I've been seeing it a lot, but I guess in a way it is a good term, because it's just short and most people know what it means now, rather than having to like really explain it. Like most people that I see that are doing hybrid training are running and lifting. Maybe they're doing some races that they're training for, but they're also focused on getting stronger or maintaining the strength that they have. So anyway, hybrid training essentially is you're not just focused on one thing. Like you're not doing bodybuilding style workouts only, or you're not doing powerlifting only, and you're not only running. You're doing some lifting, some cardio. It doesn't have to be running. I don't think so, unless there's like a very specific definition for this that I'm unaware of. But in my head, it's that you're focusing on some zone 2 cardio, maybe some running, improving your pace, your speed, just really working on cardiovascular health while also lifting weights in the gym. You're also putting some time in on your mobility and flexibility, and you're kind of just hitting all the things to be a well-rounded athlete. And to be fair, I think any good athlete should be doing all these things anyway. It depends on your sport, obviously. Most power lifters, if they're like heavyweight power lifters, they're not going to be doing a ton of cardio, obviously, at least not in their season where they're prepping for a competition, because you don't want to really use any extra amount of energy, exert too much energy aside from your lifting that you need to be doing. It's not that cardio is going to burn the muscle that you have somehow and use it for energy, because that's just not how that works. I think there's been like a big misconception with that, oh no, the cardio is going to, burn all my gains away. I'm going to lose all my gains. And if you start running a lot, you're going to notice your strength go down. But I think the reason people assume that it's like burning their muscle is because they actually just don't have the energy, the fuel that they need to be lifting the way that they were before. And you most likely don't have the same amount of time, and your workouts are going to just be laid out differently and look differently. Okay. So like for me specifically, and this could be different from person to person depending on what your background is in. I guess last year at this time, I did start running a little bit. I'm always kind of like, I do something for a while and then I kind of get bored of it and then I come to something else, and maybe that's my ADHD. I don't know. But I'm always like interested in learning new things and picking up new things, but I don't stick to it for a very long time and get really good at one thing. It's like I dip my toes in and then I'm on to the next thing. Now though, I'm trying to get away from doing that, and I want to focus on getting better at the things that I'm working on and like really stick with it, which is why I think hybrid training is great, because it gives me multiple things to work on, which keeps my like anxious ADHD brain entertained and stimulated, and allows for some flexibility in my training. So anyway, like I said before, I was powerlifting primarily, not right at this time last year, but in like the winter time, fall, winter time. And I had been lifting heavy before that, which is why I went into powerlifting. I felt literally strong in that sport. So I wasn't doing cardio for that amount of time that I was working up to a powerlifting meet. The workouts were, based around power. So squat, bench, deadlift would always be first. And then I would have like my accessory stuff, which a lot of times looked kind of like a bodybuilding style workout with like your bro split based around your 3 main lifts. No cardio though. And I could feel like I missed a little bit more of that kind of movement. Like I needed it, like my body craved it. I wanted to get my heart rate up a little bit more. I wanted to be able to go for longer walks and like I never really got big into running, but something was making me want to, like I needed it. My VO2 max was like pretty low and I wanted to eventually improve on that. So after powerlifting, I sprinkled in running a little bit, but I didn't know enough about it. And I went too far in, like running too fast, too often, fatigued myself extremely fast, cortisol, like super high. So cortisol is your stress hormone. It gets released when you train. And it also gets released like anytime you're in any type of stressful situation, good or bad stress. Your body doesn't know when it's good or bad. It just knows it's stress. So exercise, while it is great for you, it does increase cortisol, especially high intensity training, especially if you're not eating enough or not getting enough protein or not sleeping enough. So all those things can add more and more stress. So me running too much, too fast, while still trying to lift heavy and maintain my numbers in the gym, it was like we were spiraling out of control. So don't do that. Lesson learned. But again, I get bored, need the stimulation, go in too hard, too soon. I have since learned the importance of slow runs, which if you've not ever been a runner, if you didn't run in high school or college or whatever, and this is like new to you, like it is for me, your slow runs are freaking slow. Like slow. Like you could be walking, but you're not, which is awkward and uncomfortable in your body. And it's hard to keep your heart rate down when you're in like a funky position. So like figuring out the right form for a slow run and getting outside to do it, because I swear it feels so much better than trying to do it on a treadmill. It goes a long way. So slow runs a couple times a week. In fact, I could even say if you're brand new to it, you can opt for the bike for your slow runs or zone 2 training. So zone 2 essentially is keeping your heart rate in zone 2 and not going up past that. For most people, I'm not great with math here, but for most people, zone 2 should be under like 140, depending on your age. You can Google it, do the math to find out exactly what your number is for zone 2. If you wear a watch, it'll tell you. I think if you're a little older, it's a little higher because you subtract less. Anyway, moral of the story, it's definitely below 150. Zone 2 for you might be 118 to 130, let's say. So you want to do your zone 2 training, and that can be on a rower, it can be on a bike, it can be running. But for most people that are new, if you try to go out and run and stay in a zone 2, it's going to feel impossible. And every time you start getting in a rhythm and you're in a place where like your body feels okay, like, oh, I can maintain this form, next thing you know, your heart rate's at 158 and you're like, shit, well, this is no longer zone 2. And then you got to come back down and then you got to walk. And that can just be annoying when you're trying to get some miles in and you're like, oh my God, I'm basically walking the whole time. And it's fine to walk. Also, let me say, walking is exceptional. It's great. It's beneficial, but I get it. When you want to be running, you want to be running. No one really feels great if they're trying to get better at running and your watch is like, slow down, you're going too fast. And you're like, what? I'm already going in like a 15-minute mile pace here. How do I slow down anymore? So yeah, it can be a pain. Like, just to put in to perspective, if you're tracking your runs, I want to say when I first started getting consistent, which was, I don't know, not even a year ago, I would say. I tried to get consistent last year and then had an injury. That's a whole nother thing. I really didn't get consistent until my injury was healed. So since January of this year, I started to pick up running a little bit more, and I was biking a good bit. Indoor biking, not outside, but just keeping my heart rate down. My pace for a zone 2 easy run was pretty close to like a 12-minute mile pace. Now I'm around an 11:30. So slow progress. It's still a slow pace, but that's what I got to do for my easy runs. And I see women on Instagram that I follow that are like big marathon runners. Oh, excuse me. they will do their easy runs and their slow runs between like a 10-minute to a 12-minute mile pace. So don't freaking feel bad if that's the pace you're at, or if you're slower than that. God, I just drank all my supplements mixed together at once, and it's bubbling a little bit. So anyway, going slow is fine. It takes time. The best thing you can freaking do is keep that heart rate down and let your body adjust if you are pretty new to this. Or if you used to run years ago and you stopped for a while and you're getting back into it, then same thing. Like, your body will get used to it again, and maybe you can start out a little bit faster, see where your heart rate's at when you start going again. But those slow runs and building that base, as they say, is so important. Don't go out of the gate too hot and do all this like speed work and threshold runs and keeping your heart rate up too high. Try to keep it down. I have a Concept 2 bike, and I'm actually getting a rower, which I'm super excited about. So I really like the Concept 2 bike. It's super simple. It's not anything fancy like a Peloton. There's no big screen. It's got a little monitor. That's all you need. I can connect it to my Garmin. And I love just sitting on that thing. I can put something on TV and just go and take it slow. I don't have to turn the resistance up high and just keep my heart rate down. And it's nice too because I can have it inside while my daughter's there and she's, you know, playing with something. I bought her a Skip It for Easter, the thing you like put around your ankle and then skip it. Literally, you gotta have to jump over it. So she's getting her little exercise. I'm riding the bike. But it's great because I can have it inside and still be with my family. Sometimes I even roll it into the kitchen and literally cook dinner while I'm on my bike. So that's helpful. Not everything needs to be at the gym or outside. You can make it work. But Concept 2 bike, check that out. The rowers are cool too, but I think biking would probably be easier for most people to keep your heart rate down. So anyway, I'm rambling a little bit about this part of the training. Anyway, improving running, improving your cardio, zone 2, easy runs, low intensity, keep it down, don't spike the cortisol up high all the time. If you're running, obviously, and like primarily focusing on that without strength training, you're probably going to notice that you can get better at running a lot faster. My boyfriend, for example, was running like every day, and he got a lot better really quickly. And by better, I don't just mean like, oh, he could run faster. I'm talking about like really comparing the stats. Like, you know, after a month, his heart rate was staying a little bit lower for a pace that he was doing a month ago, the exact same pace. If he ran at like a 9-minute mile last month, he was at like 148. If he ran a 9-minute mile for the same distance this month, he's at like 138, whatever, just an example. So if your heart rate's adjusting like that, that's a good sign that you're progressing. If you're able to run a little bit longer, you're progressing. So long story short, you're doing that more often. You're putting more of your focus into running. You're going to get better at running faster. So that's where with hybrid training, it starts to get a little complicated because now you're sprinkling in these other things that you have to make time for. And as somebody that had more background in strength training and lifting heavy, it can mess with you because you're not lifting the same amount of weight now. Like, because I'm not focused on just lifting anymore. I'm not spending 2 hours in the gym 4 or 5 days a week taking my rest time in between and really focusing on moving slow with every single rep. I mean, I'll still do that, but I'll have like 3 exercises instead of 5 on a day that I'm also having to run. Do you know what I mean? So my workouts just look different. The routine looks different for any person that's doing hybrid training versus focusing on one sport. You're going to notice some changes. Like if you're a runner full time and now you start adding in strength training, you're probably going to be fatigued for a while. Like your body's not used to exerting that extra amount of energy. Plus it's different muscle fibers. And like for me specifically, powerlifting to distance running are complete opposites on that spectrum when it comes to like what muscle fibers you're using. Powerlifting, you're doing very low rep and you're putting all that energy into that one lift, right? And then you rest. I don't have to do it again and again and again. I'm not using the endurance. So that's completely different than me going out and running for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 miles, where my heart rate is now at this steady state the whole time. It's not going up and then coming back down to rest, and then going up and then coming back down. Maybe a little if your elevation is changing, but my point is your heart rate's staying up. There is no rest in between. So that's your endurance training, which is going to be completely different. Your body is using energy differently. You're not using your glucose when you're doing these like long, slow runs. You're using oxygen primarily, which is why I'm trying to improve my VO2 max, how my body converts oxygen to energy. And I am at VO2 max 44, which I was like at a 40, I think. It's supposedly excellent for like my age and my gender. I don't really know. I met a lady the other day. Hers was like 55, but she's been running for years, like probably 30, 40 years. She was older, more conditioned, and she's not doing as much strength training. So her VO2 max was like up here. And I was like, that's awesome. Also, when you're older, like numbers change too. So, for her, I think she said, or maybe we were talking about HRV status, which is a whole nother thing. I can't remember what her VO2 max used to be. But anyway, 55 is really good. And she is over 50, I think. So impressive. I'm like, that's goals. I want to get mine up that high. But you have to do more speed work consistently, like once a week, every week, and just keep practicing your runs. So for me, my split now from what I used to be doing, my powerlifting, bodybuilding style, like bro split workouts and all that stuff with like no cardio at all. Now I am adding in like some circuit training, almost like CrossFit style stuff. I've taken the weight down as to not burn myself out and like over fatigue myself. There are certain things that like I know where I can lift at a certain weight, like my dumbbell bench press and things like that. But I'm not back squatting heavy weight right now. I just don't need to. Like, I'm not powerlifting. I don't need to go out there and be back squatting 275 when my main focus right now is progressing with my runs and I have races coming up. So I want to stay strong. I want to stay healthy. I want to maintain some muscle. Technically, all you need to maintain muscle are 2 lifts a week, 2 days of lifting. From what I learned in school, in my exercise science classes, I was told that you need to do your lifts on separate days from your zone 2 training. That's where it gets a little wishy-washy for me, and I don't always do that the best, because you get what you get in your 24 hours of a day, and we've got a lot going on, and some days I'm only going to be able to lift if I do it on my zone 2 day, and that's just how it works out. It's just 2 different styles of training. It's recommended to do speed work and sprints on the days that you are lifting. So I really like when it works out this way and I can do leg day on my sprint interval day. They go hand in hand. Again, it comes down to like the muscle fibers that you're using too. I'm still doing more repetitions with my leg day sessions now. But anaerobic workouts, keeping those together versus your aerobic. So you got to do what works for your schedule. It's been a little tricky for me to figure out where my limits are. And I'm kind of trial and erroring it right now based on how many steps I get a day, like how much movement overall I'm getting. How many days a week I can lift without overdoing it. And that I'm basing off of feel. Am I overdoing it some days and then I'm super fatigued the next 2 days? I kind of did do that to myself this week, so I took a little extra rest yesterday. But then I felt great today. Sometimes your body will tell you, we need the extra rest. Do I want to keep doing that week to week? No, I don't want to keep overdoing it, need more rest. Overdo it, need more rest. I'm trying to find that balance. But you can't just give somebody the exact same schedule. For me, I don't think that it works for every single person anywhere, any lifestyle. It's just not the case. A man is going to have a different training style than a woman, maybe similar, but in most cases, a guy with more testosterone is going to recover faster. Also this week I'm PMSing, so hormone fluctuations, hormones drop, which means I start to feel kind of depressed, low energy. Your body's burning extra calories during this period of time. So not feeling as hot in the gym. Am I going to lift as heavy that week? Maybe not, maybe it's more of a maintain. Maybe I'm not going up in the weight. Maybe I'm not adding extra reps, whatever. My point is it can be a little bit flexible. The thing that I'm keeping consistent is my run schedule. So because I am trying to focus on running right now, I let my running days be what picks my schedule, essentially. So base my lifting around my runs, if that makes sense. If I'm feeling good, maybe I do a third day of lifting for the week. If I'm a little low energy, I will do 2 days of lifting, and then I typically have 4 days of running. So I want to say right now it's picked up and I'm doing a little bit more speed work just because I'd been building my base and doing so many slow runs. But usually week to week it looks something like 2 base runs, which is usually like my zone 2, which is like 45 minutes to 60 minutes at a 11:30 pace. And that's just like steady, keep going. Then I'll have a day where I'm doing some type of speed work. The intervals tend to change. Today it was 15 seconds at a 5-minute mile pace. And I did that 6 times, like rest in between, like walk in between. It was like three rounds, and then I had a longer rest where I ran in between at like an 11:30 pace, and then I went again and did my next 3 rounds, 5-minute pace, 15-second intervals. So bop, 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 rest, bop, 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 if that, helps. Some days it's a longer interval, but a slower pace. Maybe I'm running at a 6:30 pace for 90 seconds, and then I rest 90 seconds or something like that. And then you do multiple rounds of that. So it changes. I'm not writing that for myself. I use my Garmin for that. Or Wednesday mornings, I've been running at HCC. They coach the track team over there, and I thought I was going to join the track team last year, and I did actually. And I competed at 1 indoor meet, but then I was like, what am I doing? I literally cannot maintain this. I cannot be going to track meets for an entire Saturday. I have a kid. I was taking 5 classes. I run a business. What am I thinking? I am thinking I was having a quarter life crisis because I was turning 30 last year. And I was like, I want to go back to college and do all the things and be an athlete. And I did throw shot put, which was really fun. And that was pretty cool. And I came in 3rd place. So I didn't come in dead last for my first and last meet. Anyway, I sometimes run with them, which does push me a little bit. What I was going to also add, today I ran on the treadmill at the gym, and trying to do sprint intervals on a regular treadmill was just shit. It didn't feel good. It takes so long to speed up to the right speed. I'm trying to get the pace right. And by the time I get it and I'm going, my 15 seconds is up. And then I'm like, slow down, slow down, slow down. So I probably ran like longer than 15 seconds because of the progressive speed incline and then coming back down. And I'm like, this isn't ideal. And then you can't lean into it on the treadmill. Like when you run outside, if you ever look at like people that are sprinting or even just running, I don't know, you wouldn't really do it at like a slow pace, but if you're running at like a decent pace, you're leaning into it. I don't mean lean like just push your chest forward. I mean like your whole torso is leaned into it, eyes forward, right? You can't do that on a flat treadmill. Like, it doesn't feel right. My chest was like sticking out. My hands are like this. I'm like, what the like this isn't good form at all. So I ended up doing my 3 intervals on the flat treadmill, and I was like, this doesn't feel good. And then I went over to the like the curvy treadmill, which is supposed to be more accurate with your form because it does help get like your knees up. That did feel better. I did my other 3 rounds on there and like an extra round. I was able to go way faster and I could control how to, speed it up. It was more natural. But I will say I felt like I held myself back a little bit because I was really afraid that I was going to misstep or go too fast and be like the hamster on the wheel that like fucking flies off. So needless to say, I would recommend, sorry, my neighbor just went by and I think this might be, the lady that reported me to HOA for parking my truck slightly sideways in my driveway. The HOA, what a stupid thing. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. The Curve treadmill, yes. Assault Runner, Curve treadmill, there's a bunch of different brands, but I could sprint a little bit better, but oh yeah, I didn't want to fling myself off of it like the hamster on the wheel. So I think I held back a little bit. So I would just run outside when you can do that. It sucks because I feel like the ideal place to do sprint intervals is like somewhere flat, like on an actual track. But if it's like cold and rainy, obviously you're not like wanting to go do that. I mean, sometimes you just got to suck it up and do it. But like I was already at the gym, so I used the treadmill. Not everybody has a track that they have access to either. So sometimes you got to use what you got to use. And if it's the treadmill at the gym, then use the treadmill at the gym. But you got to be safe. Make sure that you're comfortable. If you feel like you're about to misstep or fling yourself off, then like, take some time to get comfortable with the equipment that you're using, I would say. I definitely felt a little bit funny on there today. And I also feel like sometimes I run like, do you know Roger, the alien from American Dad? How his hands are always like this and his belly sticks out? That's how I felt on the treadmill today. I might make a meme of that, of like him and I next to each other, because I definitely was standing like that. But you might not even need to be doing sprint intervals that often, that fast in the beginning. So the treadmill can be nice sometimes because you can set a pace. Like the days that you have a set pace that you need to do for a long period of time to keep your heart rate down, then set it on the treadmill and then you can just keep going. I will say though, my heart rate tends to go up higher on the treadmill. I don't know, because maybe my form is funky and it feels a little less natural. And I've heard other people say that too, that treadmill runs, your heart rate can sometimes go a little higher. So just be, considerate of those things. Don't beat yourself up, because I had days where I get on the treadmill and I'm like, what gives? Why is my heart rate up so high? I walked on the treadmill this morning before working out, and it was actually zone 2 for me. Like just walking, I was already in a zone 2, which I guess on one hand is nice because I'm like, well, I need to be doing this and at least I can just walk. But yeah, so find what works for you. But all in all, I guess what I'm getting at here with this whole message, I'm not even sure what my point of this whole conversation was, but the hybrid training, as they're calling it, is essentially just like well-rounded training for any athlete. Again, if you're in a specific sport and you're trying to compete, then you probably don't want to do hybrid training, at least while you're, working towards your competition, like in your peak week or peak months or building up to your peak week or whatever the heck you call it. But you wouldn't add in a bunch of cardio right before doing some other type of competition. But any of you that are competing and listening to this, obviously you know that. So I don't know why I'm telling you that. If you're listening to this because you're just somebody getting into the gym more and you want to learn about this stuff, then I recommend sprinkling in a little bit of everything here and there. I know it sounds like a lot sometimes to get everything done, but write it down, honestly. Write down your week. Write down what days you can do the thing that you need the most work on. Let's say that. Like, if you know you want to improve more at running, and running is going to be the thing that you're focused on mostly right now, plan it around your run days and have your 4 days that you run, and then have your lift days based off of that. Either 2 days of lifting or 3 days of lifting. 4 days of running, 2 to 3 days of lifting, depending on how your body feels. I'd start with 2, then maybe add in the third, okay? If you haven't built up strength yet, if you weren't lifting before, then let's do 4 days of lifting a week. That's your main focus. So we should focus on progressive overload, where you're going up in the weight or the volume in some form. It doesn't have to be that you're lifting more weight each week. Maybe you're lifting a couple extra reps or a couple extra sets, less rest in between. 4 days of lifting, if that's your main focus. Then sprinkle in the cardio. 2 days. Doesn't have to be crazy. It can be zone 2 every single time. Maybe it's on the bike. Maybe it's on the rower. Start with 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. But your lifting is the main focus. You're trying to go up on your lifting. Do you see what I'm saying? I feel like it's extremely hard for any person that doesn't have a background, like a heavy background in one or the other, to be progressing at both at the same time. Like, I'm sure some people can do it. I'm sure some men are maybe better at doing it with testosterone and how their bodies can, do better on less sleep, which is not fair, but just kidding. I mean, I love sleep, so I'm not gonna complain. But it's really hard to get better at both things at once. You know what I mean? Lifting, running, you're not going to just be getting stronger week to week to week while also getting faster week to week to week and keeping the heart rate down. There might be a short period of time where you're like, oh shit, I'm feeling like I've really progressed here, both. But I don't think that's going to be like steady. You're probably going to see some ups and downs, and it's easier to just focus on the one thing going up at once versus trying to do both. If the hand gestures are helping here, you're welcome. It's kind of like saying, people focus on bulking or cutting, and it's really hard to do both at the same time. It's not impossible. I'm not going to tell you that you can't do it. I've done it, but it's a very slow process. Most people don't like that. Most people want to see some results because it keeps you going. So it's definitely, what word? It's not better. I guess maybe you could just say it's, I don't know, maybe it's optimal to do one or the other, depending on what your goals are. Like if it's weight loss, then I personally like to build some muscle first and then cut. So bulk, cut, bulk, cut. The reason people do that is because it's way easier to focus on one at a time, because you can focus on that one thing. Okay, if I'm bulking right now, that means I'm eating more, increasing protein, increasing my carbs. I'm not going to eat like a wild person. I still want to eat nutritious foods. Like there's numbers, okay, that you're going to follow. You don't just, some people say they're bulking and really they're just eating whatever the hell they want. Not that I've ever done that. That is what I used to do for years. Anyway, bulking, increasing your calories while focusing on progressive overload, we're getting stronger. You're going to build your muscle and like clearly be able to tell that you're building muscle, and it probably feels better. Cutting, okay, we're cutting now. We need to get into a deficit. Not a crazy deficit. You don't want it to be drastic. You don't want to lose the weight too fast. Let's say take 500 calories off your maintenance. That's usually like the best place, okay? Drop those calories a little bit, and maybe we sprinkle in a little more cardio, but we're still doing all the same lifts. Like my cardio or my cutting lifts are the same as my bulking most of the time. Like I'm still doing the same movements. Maybe my reps change a little bit, but essentially still moving my body, because the main thing that's going to help you cut is being in a deficit. And your body's going to react to that better, and it's going to go, oh, okay, it's time to lose some body fat now because we are burning more than we're consuming. And so my point is, it's easier for you to pick one over the other, one at a time. And I feel the same way when it comes to progressing with cardio and strength. So just seems easier to do one and then the other. Nick Bear is a really good example of this, because he tends to cut when he's increasing his running. Not that you need to, but you do feel better and lighter when you have less body fat on you for running like long races. You don't want an absolute dump truck while you're trying to run and your butt is just like weighing you down. And I can speak from experience on that. It's not comfortable. So Nick Bear will typically like cut as he's prepping for like a marathon or an ultra marathon or whatever it is. He's a little bit lighter, a little bit leaner. He still lifts, like he's still freaking strong. Like you see him out there running with all these people and you're like, what the heck? Like this guy looks crazy, like, cause he's all jacked and most runners are like real skinny and thin. But he loses the weight and then focuses more on cardio for a bit, you know, maybe decreases some of the lifts, but then when he switches back and he's doing more lifting, less of the cardio, he still runs, but maybe he's not doing long distances, right? So it kind of goes back and forth. And I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with the bulk cut, you know, run, lift. You see what I'm saying? Is this making sense? I don't know. I could keep just talking about a million different things here. So maybe I'll wrap this up. And then this is going to be my first, like, me blabbing on YouTube video. And if you have questions, maybe that'll give me some other things that I could talk about. I apologize. My vocabulary isn't always the best. I feel like I use the same words over and over, and I need to get better at my vocabulary to help make sense of these things that we're talking about. But yeah, if you have questions or if there's any topics you want to go over, let me know. Basically, today was just mostly about like the hybrid training, combining your cardio and lifting, what that looks like. Also, my watch is a Garmin. Some people still do use Apple Watch, which seems to be great for their runs. I personally really like Garmin. I like the app. I get the heart rate monitor. Let me see if I have it close by. I wear the heart rate monitor, which also connects to my watch and my app. And that is really helpful for keeping track of my zone 2 when I need to have my heart rate in the right zone. This is way more accurate than just basing it off the watch, which is going to be moving around. I will say this watch is super accurate though. I have noticed that if I forget this is pretty spot on. This is the Garmin Epix Gen 2 with the sapphire screen, I want to say. This was kind of a bougie purchase, I'm not going to lie. You don't need to buy this one. But I was excited and impulsive. And when I get into something, I randomly feel like I need to fully emerge and like identify with it because I don't know. Is that another ADHD thing? I have no idea. I feel like everybody blames everything on ADHD nowadays. Maybe we all just have minds that need stimulated and like shiny new things. Am I right? I don't know. Seems more just like a human trait. I don't know, personality trait. So yeah, heart rate monitor, Garmin app. You can use Apple Watch, use that too, track it to your phone. Just something to help you keep track. Your heart rate is beneficial. You don't need it. You can base it off feel. Your easy run should just feel legitimately easy in the sense that maybe you can keep a conversation going. If you're unable to speak when you're running, you're probably going too fast and you'd want to tone it down if your goal is to be doing an easy run or a zone 2. So anyway, I'll wrap it up. Let me know if you have any other questions, and hopefully all this stuff made sense because I tend to ramble, but yeah, we'll do some more conversations like this. I want to buy a mount for my truck so that I can like chat after the gym. So let me know what you're training for. Let me know if my training on Instagram has inspired you at all to be sprinkling in more cardio, or if you already do cardio, maybe you're sprinkling in more lifting. More and more people are starting to get into both. So if you don't have me on Instagram, it's just Jenna Fit. Should be the same as my YouTube. And I didn't get to talk much about recovery and the supplements that I use, but I do use 1UP nutrition supplements. I just had my protein and my pure rebuild, which is amazing, but especially amazing after like a longer workout like today. So 1UP nutrition, and my code for that I would love it if you use it, is Jenna M20. Jenna M20. That's 20% off your entire order. They do have other discount codes and you're going to see them online, but if you use mine, I really appreciate it. It helps me out So Jenna M20 at checkout. Let me know if you need help figuring out what to use, what would be most beneficial for you. And yeah, we'll catch up later. Bye.